During his travels, Borchardt heard rumors of a mysterious ancient city known as Petra.
For centuries, millions of travelers have stood in front of Petra's most famous structure, staring at its towering facade, carved directly into rose-red rock. Guides called it a treasury. Historians repeated the same explanation, and the world simply accepted it. But what if that story was wrong? Recently, a team of archaeologists and researchers using advanced scanning technology began re-examining the iconic structure known as Khazneh inside the ancient city of Petra. What they uncovered beneath centuries of assumptions has shocked historians and challenged everything we thought we knew about this legendary site. Because the carvings on its walls, the hidden chambers behind the stone, and the strange alignment of the entire structure don't match the purpose of a treasury at all. In fact, new evidence suggests the monument may have been built for something far more mysterious, something connected to ritual, power, and possibly even the spiritual beliefs of the ancient Nabataeans who built Petra over 2,000 years ago. And if these discoveries are correct, the most photographed structure in Petra was never meant to store treasure. Its real purpose was something the ancient builders may have intentionally kept hidden. And once you see the evidence, you may never look at Petra the same way again. Before we reveal what scientists actually discovered, make sure to like and subscribe, because some of history's biggest secrets are only now starting to surface. To understand why this discovery is so shocking, you first need to understand just how misunderstood Petra has always been. Petra isn't just a monument. It's an entire ancient city carved directly into rose-red sandstone cliffs in what is now southern Jordan. It was built by a people called the Nabataeans, an ancient Arab civilization that started as nomadic traders and slowly grew into one of the most powerful cultures in the ancient world. They weren't conquerors, they were builders. They mastered water engineering in the desert. They carved roads, temples, and more than 800 tombs directly into the rock. And at the center of it all, they created Khazneh, the structure the world now calls the Treasury. Incredible architects, incredible water engineers, but also incredibly secretive people. Their origins are still debated. Even in ancient times, they were known for being hidden, for keeping their methods and movements unknown to outsiders, which raises the question that researchers have been asking for years. If the Nabataeans were so careful about what they revealed to the world, what were they hiding inside their greatest monument? That question sat unanswered for centuries, until 2024, when a team of researchers finally got permission to look beneath the surface, and what they found completely reframes everything we thought we knew about Khazneh, the monument that never made sense. Here's where the story really starts to unravel the old explanation. Stand in front of Khazneh, and you immediately feel its scale. It's enormous, roughly 40 meters tall, carved with ornate columns, detailed figures, and a decorative urn at the very top. The entrance leads into a modest interior. Just a few carved rooms, plain walls, no inscriptions, no obvious storage spaces, and no signs of wealth. And that has always been the problem. If this was truly a treasury, a place to store gold, silk, spices, or the riches of a merchant empire, it makes almost no practical sense. There's no vault, no hidden compartments have ever been confirmed above ground. The interior is simple compared to the extravagant exterior. For years, locals held onto a story. They believed the carved urn at the very top of the facade held the hidden gold of a pharaoh. According to reports, there are still bullet holes in that urn today, left by people who tried to break it open over generations. When archaeologists finally examined it, they found nothing inside No gold, no treasure, no explanation. So why was it called the Treasury at all? The name itself came from local Bedouin folklore, not from any inscription or historical record. The Nabataeans never left a label on it. They never wrote down what it was for. That silence, that deliberate absence of explanation, is exactly what made researchers suspicious, and it's exactly what drove them to finally look beneath it. The permission. No one getting access to excavate near Khazneh was never going to be simple. The forecourt in front of the Treasury is where thousands of visitors gather every single day. It's where the first photographs are taken. It's where the monument makes its first impression. For Jordan, this site isn't just an archaeological wonder. It's an economic lifeline. Millions of tourists visit Petra each year, and Khazneh is the image the entire country rallies around. For decades, archaeologists had submitted proposals to dig in this area, and for decades, the answer was always the same: no. The fear was straightforward. One miscalculation, one crack in the wrong place, and one of the world's most celebrated monuments could be damaged beyond repair. The risks were simply too high. But researchers didn't stop pushing. They argued that new technology had changed what was possible. They promised minimal disturbance. They guaranteed full restoration. Proposal after proposal landed on the desks of Jordanian officials, and proposal after proposal was turned down. Then, in 2024, something shifted. Jordan's Department of Antiquities granted approval, under some of the strictest conditions ever placed on an archaeological dig. The excavation had to be fully reversible. Every trench, once examined, would be restored as if it had never been touched. Every grain of soil would be documented before removal. A coalition was assembled: the Petra Development and Tourism Region Authority, the Petra National Trust, the American Center of Research, and the University of St. Andrews, each bringing expertise, credibility, and accountability to the table. The work could begin. But first, they needed to see inside the ground without breaking it open, reading the ground without touching it. Before a single shovel broke soil, the team turned to technology that could see through the earth itself. Ground-penetrating radar sent pulses into the ground and measured how they bounced back, revealing shifts in density, hidden voids, and buried structures. Resistivity surveys measured how well electrical currents move through the soil, which changes dramatically when walls, chambers, or open spaces are present. Magnetometry tracked tiny shifts in magnetic fields, the kind that appear where human hands have cut, shaped, or built into the stone. Inside a field tent, researchers watched the results appear on glowing monitors. Line by line, pass by pass, the earth beneath the forecourt was slowly mapped. At first, the readings were ordinary. The drainage channels that the Nabataeans had built to protect the treasury from flash floods appeared exactly where archaeologists expected them. Natural cracks in the sandstone showed up as well. Everything seemed consistent with what was already known. And then, something else appeared. A shape materialized in the data that didn't match anything around it. Rectangular, precisely edged. Its dimensions too regular, its boundaries too clean to be a natural feature. It wasn't a drain. It wasn't a fissure. It was the outline of something that had been deliberately made. The team ran the scans again and again. The shape returned every time, larger than expected, buried deeper than any known structure, and completely absent from every existing map of the site. It was given an official label, Anomaly C, but in the evenings around camp, the researchers had another name for it. They called it the Locked Chamber. and that name alone said everything about what they feared they might find inside. Opening what was never meant to be opened, when the excavation finally began, the atmosphere was different from any ordinary dig. The upper layers came away with standard tools, but as the team approached the area where the scans had detected the anomaly, everything slowed down. Metal implements were set aside. Brushes and wooden tools replaced them. Every centimeter of soil was treated as evidence. The deeper they went, the more the earth resisted. Centuries of pressure had compacted the ground into something almost solid. And then, carved steps began to emerge from the darkness below, leading downward. Smooth stone walls appeared, holding the soil back on either side. The masonry was not rough or improvised. The blocks were cleanly cut, fitted so tightly that not even air had passed through them. In nearly 2,000 years, the chamber had not simply been closed, it had been sealed, permanently, deliberately, and with skill that matched the craftsmanship visible on Khazneh's exterior above. That detail alone changes everything. Because if this chamber was sealed with the same care and precision as the monument above it, it wasn't an afterthought. It wasn't a storage room someone forgot about. Whatever was placed here was placed with intention. At a time when the most powerful people in Petra decided that this space should never be opened again. As the opening finally widened, cold, stale air escaped into the trench. One archaeologist later said it felt like breathing in the past. Another said stepping closer felt wrong, as if crossing a threshold that had been placed there for a reason. They stepped inside anyway, and what they found forced researchers to completely rethink what Khazneh was actually built for. What was inside? The first chamber the team entered was shaped with precision. Small wall openings lined its sides at regular intervals, the kind found in Nabataean tombs used to hold offerings, secondary burials, or symbolic objects. And then came the discovery that stopped the team in place. Skeletons, 12 individuals at least, each one placed deliberately, skull at the top, spine aligned, arms at the sides, legs extended. Their positions were careful, intentional. None of them had been disturbed in 2,000 years. Small bowls rested near some of their hands. Jars sat close to others' feet. Thin traces of bronze and iron appeared near their hips, likely fragments of jewelry or decorative fittings. One figure had a ceramic vessel pressed against the ribs, positioned so precisely that it appeared the person had held it in their final moment. These weren't extravagant offerings, but they were chosen, arranged, and placed with meaning. This was not simply burial, it was ritual. Then came the second chamber. The air that rushed out was foul and suffocating. Masks went on immediately. The walls inside were blackened with soot, and the floor was nothing like what came before. Bodies lay heaped together from one end to the other, twisted, tangled, limbs crossing limbs, skulls cracked, ribs fractured, joints wrenched apart. No dignity, no order, no ritual placement. Among them, the image that silenced the team, the remains of a child curled into the arms of an adult, the two locked together by centuries of sediment, as if frozen in a final, terrified embrace. Near one wall, 3 skeletons had been laid side by side with careful placement. One bore traces of jewelry and fine bronze, signs of elevated status. The 2 beside it were younger, their bones showing signs of violent death. The implication was deeply unsettling. These 2 may have been killed to accompany the wealthier figure into whatever came next. Nearby, vessels sat with residue unlike any standard Nabataean offering. Early analysis detected organic compounds, possibly iron-rich traces. Some specialists whispered that it could have been blood mixed with ash. Others suggested ritual mixtures connected to ceremonies that accompanied the deaths. None of this had ever been documented beneath Khazneh before. None of it had even been suspected. What this tells us about the real purpose. This is where the discovery connects back to the central question. What was Khazneh actually built for? Look at the evidence together. The structure has no practical treasury function. The interior has no storage capacity consistent with its exterior grandeur. There are no inscriptions, no dedications, no clear record of its purpose left by the Nabataeans themselves. But directly beneath it, sealed with permanent, deliberate, high-quality masonry, is a multi-chamber space containing ritual burials, symbolic objects, and evidence that suggests ceremonial death. The careful burials in the first chamber point to honored individuals, people placed with intention and meaning, with offerings that carried symbolic rather than material value. This is not how ordinary citizens were buried. This is how important people, elites, priests, royalty, or ritual figures were sent into the afterlife. The chaotic burials in the second chamber tell a darker story. Some specialists believe this group may represent people who died in crisis, plague victims sealed away to prevent contagion, prisoners condemned together in haste, or individuals sacrificed as part of a ceremony connected to the primary burials. What both chambers share is the same conclusion. This space was not incidental to Khazneh, it was foundational to it. The monument wasn't built to store wealth. It was built to stand above a sacred space, a ritual vault connected to death, power, and the spiritual beliefs of the Nabataean elite. The towering facade wasn't a front door to a treasury. It may have been the permanent marker above a burial site so important, so sacred, and so dangerous in the eyes of its builders that they sealed it with stone and never looked back. In other words, Khazneh may have always been a tomb. And not just any tomb. Possibly the tomb of someone whose identity and whose death the Nabataeans decided the world should never know. What remains sealed? As significant as these discoveries are, what makes the situation even more layered is what researchers still don't know. DNA analysis is planned to determine whether the individuals in the first chamber were related, members of a single royal family, or outsiders brought to Petra from elsewhere. Isotope analysis of the bones could reveal what the buried individuals ate and where they spent their lives. If their diet shows imported foods, it confirms high status. If it shows only local grain and water, it points to ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. Residue analysis of the vessels is also underway. Whether they held wine, incense, medicinal compounds, or something far darker, remains an open question, one that could either support or complicate the ritual interpretation. According to some reports, not all findings from the excavation have been released publicly. Some within the research community have suggested that tourism authorities are managing what information surfaces, concerned about how these discoveries might change public perception of Petra. That claim hasn't been confirmed, but the suggestion alone reflects a deeper tension that this discovery has created between the world's desire to see Petra as a perfect wonder and the more complicated truth that the evidence now points toward. Guides at Petra can no longer describe Khazneh the way they once did. Visitors who learn what was found beneath the forecourt respond differently now. Some avoid certain areas. Officials are adjusting tour routes, and researchers are approaching the site with a new kind of caution, understanding that some spaces demand restraint, not spectacle. Petra has always been admired as a wonder of stone, engineering, and human ambition. For generations, people looked at Khazneh and saw the achievement of a powerful civilization, elegant, beautiful, and enduring. But what lies beneath it tells a different story, one of ritual and death, of deliberate concealment, of a civilization that built its most famous monument not to display wealth, but to permanently mark and seal something it considered too sacred or too dangerous to ever be seen again. The Nabataeans didn't call it the Treasury. They didn't call it anything that we know of. They built it, sealed what was beneath it, and left. And for nearly 2,000 years, it kept its secret. Now that the seal has been broken, the question that remains is a larger one. If Petra's most iconic structure was hiding something this significant directly beneath it, what else is still hidden under Jordan's desert? What other sealed spaces exist beneath the monuments the world has photographed and celebrated without ever truly understanding? Petra is no longer just the rose-red city. It is a city that chose, very carefully, what to show to the world and what to keep buried. What do you think Khazneh was truly built for? A royal tomb? A ritual vault? Something even more deliberate? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this as fascinating as we did, make sure you're subscribed, because the secrets buried beneath the ancient world are only just beginning to surface.